Hello World of Tank Blitzers, it's Littlefinger today doing a full tank review on the VK30.01D as seen here in the garage. Tier 6 German medium tank. It's got some really nice frontally sloped armor. Turret is really narrow. Need to use that to your advantage in hull down situations. I'll talk about that a little bit later. It's got a great gun and pretty good mobility, but let's face it, Tier 6, there's a lot of mediums to choose from. So let's jump in real quick to the tech tree. You can see here we are down towards the bottom, one up from the VK2801, and you can see this tank gives you a lot of options of lines. You can go straight down to the Leopard. You can move up one to the E50M, get those tanks that have good frontal armor and really good guns, but a little bit lower on the damage per minute side. Or you can even go up through the Panther to the Tiger 2 to the E100 and get those heavy tanks with those really good frontal armor. So this tank offers a lot of flexibility from that perspective. We'll jump real quick into characteristics here, and you see comes with the L48 7.5 millimeter gun. Pen on it's only 110, so it's serviceable. Obviously your first 5 games as top tier, gets a little bit more difficult as bottom tier. Not a lot of guns to choose from, but you will have to go through the turret to actually get up to the L70, which gives you 150 mil of pen. Now, one of the nice things is no mobility on this tank, so you're going to have to struggle to work your way, grind your way through these engine upgrades. Real quick on consumables, you can see repair kit, multi-purpose, adrenaline, provisions, running protective kit, improved fuel, and chocolate. Ammunition, I'm running 16 rounds of APCR, and of course, make sure you're buying that with credits, not gold, using that shell price button there. As far as equipment goes, I'm only running the top tier on this. I really struggled with what to say on this review. This tank kind of falls right in the middle of for me. So again, not a tank I would necessarily keep. So running gun rammer, defense system, and improved optics. The next step down, enhanced gun lane drive or supercharged. This does have some nice shell velocity on it, so your 30% additional is going to give you a nice jump in that. You might want to go with that. I could certainly see an argument for that. I'd go with the enhanced armor, engine accelerator, vertical stabilizer, and then forget about the last two. So here's the tank in Armor Inspector, and I just wanted to point out a couple of things. So you see from the front how narrow the turret is, and it's only got strips of green there on either side. Now, I mentioned the sloped armor, and the way best to play this tank if you're kind of in a peek-a-boom situation is get this turned to about 45-50 degrees and be shooting just over the front track. And you'll see, even on a flat surface, if you angle it down, use that 8 degrees gun depression, you're getting a lot of red here. So you do pull out, expose your side just a little bit. Hopefully you get the enemy to fire back at you as you're pulling behind your hard cover, and you're going to get bounces off the front of this tank. Alright guys, here we are, bottom tier, Mayan Ruins. Going to head towards the center of the map. I think it's the most critical part of this map, but anyway, here you can see down at the bottom, damage per minute on this tank is going to be about the worst of all the medium tanks. However, our penetration is a little bit on the high side, and you know, we do have this really nice shell velocity. So we've got a shot already into the Bulldog, and it looks like half their team has gone the medium alley, and the other part of the team is still down there with the heavies. So we're going to push on to these guys and see if we can't get some damage in. So if we look right here on the weapon handling, nothing really stands out above and beyond all of the other mediums in the tier. So where we start to see some red numbers on these other tanks is when we get into movement and mobility. And the downside here, though, is that you've got 1.1 on the terrain resistance. Otherwise, this tank would clearly stand out as one of the best mobility-wise medium tanks. So here we are trying to get rid of this SU-152. He manages to scrape off of us, but we zoom in, aim right for this front plate, and somehow that bounces. Luckily, we get saved by the VK coming through. So looking at the stats here, you can see we've got the most hit points at 1,000. And then our hull and turret armor is basically right in line with the rest of these tanks, which is why, you know, nothing really stands out for me about this tank. You know, I really wanted to love it, but in looking at my stats, you know, it's average. There's nothing about this tank that really jumps out above and beyond the average of all 12 medium tanks that I have owned and played. So anyway, back to the game. Things have quickly fallen apart here, and it's now a 3-on-1 situation. We've got that Tog down there with quite a lot of hit points left. He's going to get a shot in as I'm basically going to try to get some distance between these guys. And it's when I'm coming down this ridge here that the T-43 comes at me. So a tier higher, it's going to have a little bit faster reload. He's going to do a little bit more damage. And unfortunately, he puts me down to 200 hit points, even though I had done a fairly good job conserving hit points. And that Tog is looking down at me, and probably should have tried to swing up to the left, but couldn't get behind the rock to get cover. So we end up losing this game, but not before I did 1966 in damage, 3 kills. Not much help from the team, as it were. Alright, so here's another game as bottom tier on Naval Frontier. We're just going to use our speed and push into the middle, see if we can't get any spots, and try to determine what the opponents are doing as far as their strategy goes. So there, now we've got an idea. They got a couple heavies going to the right. Not sure. Managed to get that shot in, but we've got looks like one of their lights is up at the or is that there's TD's up there on the high ground. He's not going to last much longer up there, that's for sure. So anyway, know the coast is clear. They've all gone around to the heavy side, so I can push through the middle here. See how well the tank does accelerate, 55 kilometers per hour. And that's when we come up to Black Prince. Now he's got some really good frontal armor, just some very short strips of front plate there that you can hit, and he's doing a great job wiggling this back and forth, making it more difficult. So we've switched over to APCR, and even then we're having some trouble with all of them bouncing. But I'm content to stay back here because all he can see of me is the turret at this distance, so no point rushing down there and taking unnecessary shots. As soon as the Type 62 gets him turned around, we can switch back to just regular AP. So, you know, I talked a little bit at the open about how to angle this tank. And so this would be one of those kind of hold down spots where you can get your tank like I am right now behind this wall, and basically all you're exposing is the top of the turret. No one's seeing me right here, so I can just go ahead and shoot away, but you know, it's not as critical at this point in time. But you know, these maps don't have a lot of hold down spots, and where they are is not necessarily always where the action is. So you can see here it's 4-on-2. Our guys are pushing in, so want to make sure that I'm helping out and getting in the action here. They are circling this guy, and when the KV-1S spots up to the right, so let them take care of the 34-1, and we'll come in here, just drop adrenaline now that he has fired, and see how we use our speed just to get around him. Never even turns around on us, and pretty much over for him there. So yeah, not a lot of strategy in that game, but just wanted to point out the difficulty in penetration on the tier 7 heavy, and then also just kind of the basics of getting hull down. And so now we'll switch to top tier Castilho, and obviously this is where this tank really does shine. So we've got 3 heavies TD over there behind me. Looks like a couple lights here beside me. So just going to go ahead and crest on over this ridge line and up close to the cap here in the middle, and just see if we can get some spots in. So I've been spotted here, so want to be careful. Figure it's just a sentinel at this point in time, so we're gonna back up since they've obviously gone down a little bit further, and we're gonna see what we can spot further down. This T1's making a mad run for it. He does spot me up. Get that shot in. We're able to finish him off. Not sure what his strategy was there. But that's obviously being a little bit too aggressive. Difficult shot there on the AT with him angled backwards like that. But these guys are kind of spread out. They're all kind of down here in the valley area. So we'll get a shot in there. Again, you know, not trying to stay too exposed out in the open. Trying to use this hard cover as much as possible. And you know, it's one of these things, if you ever watch these really good Unicum players with their YouTube channels, like some of their live streaming stuff, you'll notice that consistently they are extremely patient. They don't get themselves into bad positioning, and yeah, I mean, they don't win every single game. I mean, nobody does. But you can see that AT turns towards us and gets our track. And so he gets shot from the other side, so now he's going to turn back to them. Unfortunately, I missed this coming up shot. I don't give it enough lead. But anyway, you know, it's one of those things where patience really is key to this game. I can't stress that enough. And I think this game here is a very good example of that. You know, I'm making sure that if I'm showing much of my tank, it is just the sides, or, you know, I'm not out there in the middle like that T1 heavy. And yeah, you know, it turns into a situation here where it's 4-on-2, but I still have all of my hit points. Those 2 guys down there are a little bit low, and we get around this T1 and we're able to finish him off. So now we're in a 2-on-1 situation. Obviously we want to get the sentinel out first, obviously, because he is low health, but What we're gonna do here is we've got this TD, so we can certainly aim for tracks, make it difficult for him to push on us. And I'm just using this hill here. That shot there might not have been a very smart choice. But you can see here, we've now killed his engine and tracked him, so chances are he's out of repairs. It's a shame that that one was aimed just a little bit too far forward, but I really want to get that Sentinel out. And this is where he makes the smart move, and so he's going to flank around me at this point in time. Gotta be leery of the Jagdpanzer because obviously he's got very high damage per minute. And you know, I trade 2 shots for 1 there to get the Sentinel out of the game. And because we were able to get his engine, this guy could not push on us fast enough, and so now we're kind of in a similar situation. I'm just trying to use these dead tanks as much as possible, and we get that one to go in. We're each 1 shot now, and we managed to find just a little opening and finish it off for kill number 4. So that's how the patience comes in. Keep your hit points to the end of the game, regardless of what tank you're in. And you see there, we did 2,700 damage, 4 kills, mastery badge. And that Sentinel did a pretty good job too. Obviously worthy opponent there. Alright, so here's a top tier supremacy game on desert sands, and you can see I am the only person out here in the desert, so certainly have to agree with going to C. There's no point me going to A and ending up in a 3-on-1, 4-on-1 or worse situation. So not sure where T1's going there, but we are going to push fast into C with the rest of our team. Get a quick cap there, and I decide what I'm going to do is push around, and not sure who spotted me there, so I know I've got to be careful. So we'll see what we can see here. Got tanks all the way down there, and this is where your shell velocity really comes in handy. I am now spotted, so got to be careful here. Wanted to get that last shot in and then back down. It's a shame that didn't go in. He's going to stay there and allow us to get another shot. Not sure how that one doesn't go in either. But then again, you know, this is quite a distance. We're now down 2 tanks at this point in time. So the decision here is, do I go and help? Got a T-21, let's say 1 shot sitting out here, and that's when I make the decision to push. KV-1S then shows up, and I'm thinking, why am I doing this? So there's my KV-1S. Another shot that bounces. I want to get this T-20 out, willing to take a shot from the KV-1S. But I managed to get around him before he reloads and shoots. So bounce that shot off the KV-1. I've got 3 tanks that I'm just circling around here. We are down 2 tanks at the moment, and just trying my hardest to keep these guys from getting shots in on me. Wish I'd have gone for the track there, but anyway, so we've gotten 2 kills now. Haven't taken really any damage outside of getting tracked, and yet my team has completely fallen apart, and now it is just me 3-on-1, and that's the downside to playing this conservative play style and not taking those hit points early. And so these guys do a great job, to be honest with you. Basically, I know I'm down in points, so Wanted to try to get over to A before they pushed on me. But they basically circle me and use their hit point advantage. I do make it probably closer than it should have been as we track that guy and he misses the first shot. And then you see what I do here is I'm basically trying to keep that Cromwell between the VK between me and the Cromwell, but he manages to get around him and get his shots in too. So leave that VK with 1 hit point, and the Crom still had 700. So anyway, we did not survive that. Again, it's one of those games where you get let down by your team. It happens. So 2651 in damage, 4 kills, and I got 2 tanks there that didn't even get a shot in. So so what can I say about this tank? I mean, it's average. There's nothing great about it. It moves well, it drives well, but so do a lot of these other mediums. You look at the Cromwell and the Shermans; they all drive really well. The gun's really accurate, but you can say that for just about any of these mediums. So, it's just your run-of-the-mill medium tank. If you play it well, you can certainly have these 2,000 damage games without problem. But if you YOLO in it and get yourself knocked out early, you're going to be like the rest of these stats. So anyway, guys, hope you learned a few tricks here on how to make this tank a little bit more effective for you. And have fun out there. Stay safe. Get educated. Not fingered. Littlefinger out.